Welcome to the Wealth Across Generations podcast, the podcast where families learn to thrive at all levels and grow together. I'm your host, David Allen. Welcome to the Wealth Across Generations podcast. Here we explore ideas and answers to how your family can be more wealthy, successful, happy, emotionally intelligent, and resilient. This podcast is a follow-up to episode 2, which talks about the 9 forms of capital. If you haven't heard it before, I invite you to go back and listen to that episode first. But even if you haven't, you'll still get major value out of this. How do we know whether we're really helping our family and preparing them for the future? The answer is pretty clear to business owners, but perhaps a little less obvious if you're an employee, like most people. We need a reporting system that tells us the truth about our situation. One of the best reports a business owner can have is a balance sheet. The balance sheet is like a report card that tells banks, investors, the tax man, and people who may one day wish to buy your business how valuable that business is. So it's valuable to banks because it lets them know how much money they can safely lend you, secured by assets in the business. If the business for some reason cannot pay back the loan, the bank can simply take the asset the loan is secured against and sell it probably at a loss, but recoup most if not all of their losses. And that's a far safer lending strategy than trust me bro, I'm good for it. It's valuable to investors because then they can see how many liabilities a business may have to pay, which is an important indicator of how well a business can weather out tough times. If there are too many liabilities, even just a slight hiccup in the market can put that company in jeopardy. The tax man finds the balance sheet very important because he needs to know what assets the company is capitalizing over time. And capitalizing is just a fancy way of saying the business is subtracting the full price they paid to buy something, or part of that price, over multiple years. He also needs to know that the interest that the business owner is paying on their loans is based on real loans, or if it's something they're just making up. And finally, the balance sheet is useful to someone buying a business because it helps them determine how much money the business is worth and helps them structure a deal that increases the chances that the buyer will get a good deal and that the current owner will say yes to selling at. This helps the person selling the business because this is a major part of how business owners retire. And the business sale, which is clinically called a liquidity event, is often how people become millionaires and billionaires. Now, business owners pay bookkeepers, accountants, and CPAs good money for reports like profit and losses and the balance sheet, because it's like paying for the truth. When you have the truth, your future decisions are more likely to be grounded in reality and won't result in wasted time, energy, and money. An explorer, for example, should pay good money for a map, if it's accurate. A soldier would prefer the scope that more accurately shows where his gun will fire. A delivery driver will want a GPS that gets him to the right places quickly. But what about your journey towards family wealth? In episode 2, we learned that there's more to wealth than just money. In fact, money isn't even 12% of what makes families healthy, successful, and resilient. But for those who don't have it, it's a pretty serious bottleneck, as anyone who works for a living can tell you. Shouldn't there be a balance sheet for your family's 9 forms of capital? A tool that can tell you the truth about everything you're doing, everything your spouse and children, parents, and cousins are doing for the success of the family. This balance sheet would not be for the tax man because he doesn't care about 80% of what's on it. He should only know what you're legally obligated to pay. And ideally, that's as little as possible, right? This isn't for somebody buying your family because your family isn't for sale. At least, I hope it's not. And it's certainly not for the bank, because you can barely trust them with what you already have in your account. This document is not meant to create impositions for others. It's meant to show intention and to guide your family's culture. So first, we'll review the 9 forms of capital, and then we'll talk about the 3 sections of a balance sheet as they merge qualitative and quantitative elements. These are things you can count and things you can't. Finally, we'll put together some guidelines on how you can build your own family balance sheet. This is something you can do with your spouse, your children, or other members of your family wealth group, though I recommend not having too many cooks in the kitchen if your family is new to this. 2 to 5 people should be plenty in the beginning. And you may be wondering, well, can't you just give me one? Yes, I can. And you can get it at the end of the show, but I'm a weirdo. I'm a single man with no children making a family wealth podcast. I'm basically a starving man with a chef's hat studying the culinary arts. You have experience. You'll be able to see things that I don't, and what's important to me might be less so to you. With that out of the way, let's get started. The 9 forms of capital, which we first discussed in episode 2, were divided into 3 sections: human, mental, and resource capital. Human capital is actually made up of 4 things: social capital, which is your relationships and connections; cultural capital, which is the values, traditions, art, and thought patterns of your family; spiritual capital, which is, in a nutshell, the foundation of your faith and how it's lived out, and can also serve as a happiness index; and finally, human capital, which is not only the number of people you have in your family at any age, but also their strength, their beauty, and health. If you combine these 4, human, cultural, spiritual, and social capital, you have the underpinnings of political structure and civilization, and the power to sustain your family line from one generation to the next. Let's go to mental capital, which is made up of 2 things. The first part is intellectual capital, and that comprises all the things you learn through conversations, courses, school, and thought. The second part is experiential capital, which is expertise you gain through taking action over time and dealing with life as you live it. Intellectual and experiential capital combine to create vision, the necessary elixir you need for mental models, creativity, and strategy. And finally, there's financial capital. Financial capital is made of material, living, and I was going to say financial capital, but that's a bit redundant. I'm going to call the third one monetary capital from now on to maintain a distinct taxonomy between component and category. That way, everyone knows what we're talking about. So, material capital is the stuff people pull out of the ground and the processing facilities that turn it into useful things. So it's the food you grow in the garden and also the kitchen that turns it into a meal. Living capital is everything that is alive but not human, such as soil, fungi, animals, plants, etc. And finally, monetary capital is money. That could be currency, paper assets, basically anything that can be easily deployed to buy most everything we spend money on today. When a family has ample material, living, and monetary capital, they have abundance. For greater explanations, check out episode 2. So now that we have some idea of the different types of capital, let's go over the 3 sections of the balance sheet. We have assets, liabilities, and equity. You see, the balance sheet is like an equation, like those math problems you dealt with in school, and on the left side is one number, a total of everything in a category added together, and on the right side there are 2 more. So on the left side, that first is called assets, and assets are the sum value of everything you have. Like if you have a car, a computer, $200,000 in your bank account, and a cabin in the woods, you can add the value of all those things together, and those are your assets. On the right side are 2 things: liabilities and equity. Now, in accounting, if you add liabilities and equity together, the number you get should be the same number as what you have for assets. Since we're dealing with qualitative things right now and not precise numbers, it doesn't have to add up in our family balance sheet activity, but liabilities and equity perform similar functions as their meanings. Liabilities, when it comes to accounting, are everything you owe added together. In our earlier example, if you owe $3,000 on the car, you own the computer free and clear, and owe $80,000 on your cabin in the woods, your liabilities add up to $83,000. $80K for the cabin, and $3 for the car. Equity is how much you own of the things you have. Let's say your cabin in the woods is worth $120K, and like we said earlier, you have an $80,000 liability on that. That means your equity is $40K, or 120 minus 80 equals 40,000. For the purposes of a family balance sheet, our assets are the things that contribute to our ability to get the job done on family wealth as a family. These are things like resources, follow-through, momentum, having a plan, and established priorities for each of the 9 forms of capital. Example questions could be, how well, on a scale of 1 to 10, are you nurturing the health, happiness, strength, and beauty of each member of your family? Do you and each of your family members have written goals? Do you know those goals? On a scale of 1 to 10, how well does each family member help each other in achieving those goals, including extended family? How many family members are currently serving or interested in serving as mentors, coaches, or teachers to either other family members or to people in their community? Or, rate from 1 to 10 whether every member of the family has sufficient financial education to manage, preserve, and grow the family wealth, regardless of each individual member's professions. With each of the 9 forms of capital, I have more or less a page of questions whose answers are divided to get an average, then totaled to equal the assets. Each page should only take 3 to 10 minutes each, and your family wealth group can either speed run this or take their time over several days. Now, liabilities on our family wealth balance sheet activity are risks that could threaten long-term stability and affect the quality of decisions the family makes over 100 years. Example questions include, how true is this statement? My family is prepared for the death of its elders, and that we have learned our family history from them, chosen replacements for their mentorship roles, and younger family members are ready to take on their responsibilities. Are any of your family members struggling with addictions or mental health issues like depression? How true is this statement? I or my children have no consistent place to call home due to divorce or instability at home. How true is this statement? My family is reliant on the supply chain and the grid for all its food, water, and electricity. With liabilities, we give a higher rating on a scale of 1 to 10, the more unfavorable our position is, and a lower score, the better our position is. So finally, we have equity. Equity in the family balance sheet checklist is all about how much ownership and sense of belonging each family member has to each other, the mission of building family wealth, and the culture of the family. I have questions like this. Is every member of the family collaborating their knowledge and talents to help one another? Does the family take time to enjoy being together without simply being about growth and achievement? If things continued based upon the results in this balance sheet, would the family grow to become better and better for all involved? Even asking 3 to 4 questions that you make up about each of these 9 forms of capital would be a beneficial exercise for your family, especially if you keep it in mind from year to year. Think about what this step alone can do in boosting the number of good decisions your family makes and how good each decision is. Where would your family be in 5 years if you made 10% more good decisions, and the good decisions you did make were 10% better than before? What if your bad decisions were 10% less bad? For some families, this is enough for their long-term goals. What is enough for you? For the 20-page family balance sheet checklist, which goes over everything your family needs to be independent, resilient, and sovereign, as well as questions from this podcast, ChatGPT prompts, links to concepts discussed in each episode, and bonus content from everything from interviews to extra documentation, join the Substack. You can participate in the comments of each episode to share your best practices with other families and see what they're sharing. It's a great way to financially support the show. Of course, you can also support the show by liking the episode, reviewing the podcast, and subscribing on the platform you prefer listening to. Either way, you're helping build a parallel civilization with one family at a time and helping others to do the same. That way, as legacy institutions go down, our families will be on the rise, either to the next cycle of human history or even to the stars if the good Lord above decides now is the time to come back and take us there. Personally, I hope it's the second because after history rhymes enough times, More cycles just makes the poem seem repetitive. Plus, I'm curious to see what compound interest can do in a world with no financial bubbles or inflation once each of us celebrates our 100,000th birthdays. We better start learning how to say some numbers with larger zeros on the ends, but that's a tomorrow problem. A very good tomorrow problem. Before I leave you to ponder the family balance sheet, whether to make one for yourself or use the one I provide on the Substack, gather your family wealth group together for questions. Your family wealth group studies this podcast together with you or separately before talking about what you heard. You can ask any questions you like, but here are some good questions to start. Number 1. Why do businesses need a balance sheet? How do banks, business buyers, the tax man, and investors benefit from reading an accurate balance sheet? 2. What are the 3 parts of a balance sheet? Questions 3 and 4 are for children. Number 3. Are there reports or grades from studying at school? How do those grades help students, teachers, and parents? Question 4. Go on Yahoo Finance or another website and look at a company you like. It could be Hershey, Disney, Netflix, Apple, your dad's company, anything. Click on Financials in the left menu. Can you find the balance sheet? Even if you don't understand everything you see, can you still understand what asset, liability, and equity means? If you don't, ask your parents or elders, or read about it. Questions 5 and 6 are for elders. Number 5. What questions would you add to your family's balance sheet? 6. Are there any families that looked like they were doing well, but because they neglected to measure and improve important things, those families are now in bad times? And has this ever happened to us? 7. How can our family pull together to make sure we make better decisions so our choices improve each other's lives? Number 8, and this is for friends. What do you see about our family that we should address better, either to increase the assets of our family balance sheet, lower our liabilities, or improve the buy-in of our family members to shared mission, purpose, values, and commitment to each other's happiness, equity? Finally, number 9. How does knowledge of the 9 forms of capital and the family balance sheet change the advice you give to other family members, friends, and people you know who value your input and feedback? To have conversations like this and build your family wealth group, share this with 1 or 2 or more people who you trust and tell them that you'd like to start having more conversations just like this. By measuring, even just a couple minutes at a time, the things that matter in life, and recognizing whether they are serving us or not serving us can change the whole nature of how we see the world. Values become clear. Brothers and sisters have a more shared purpose. Husbands and wives have a greater sense of mission. Members across generations find more values that unite them and fewer that divide them. With the family balance sheet or a similar tool, or honestly just undivided attention, having quality conversations at dinner, the family can become an ecosystem that could even make an angel feel at home. This takes time to implement. Just by listening to this podcast episode, you are gaining the wisdom to have higher quality conversations with your family and point people on a better path. And if you get my checklist and decide to just circle the 3 most important questions on each page due to time constraints, you're still refining your focus as a leader in your family, or at the very least, becoming one of the people responsible for positive transformation in your family. I have no idea what struggles you may be facing, but I can tell you this. The struggles you face today you not only can solve, but you can solve for the generations that come after you. I'll see you in the next episode.